You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. Hey, let me just start with your reaction to the Jayden Daniels news.
Well, I guess I can understand the LSU fan perspective of it. I guess I hear a lot of that was you go from wondering if they're going to entertain anyone in the portal to, oh, okay, they took a guy who could really compete for a starting job. And what does that mean they think about Miles Brennan? Or what does that mean for a guy like Garrett Nussmeier, who was the presumed backup? And then I kind of take a step back and think of it of, look, Brian Kelly and his staff were paid a whole lot of money by Scott Woodward at LSU to win football games. And they get here and they didn't recruit any of these guys. And I'm not speaking to a complete loyalty play here, but the fact is that they've gone to the transfer portal and tried to beef up this team in a lot of ways. And I was thinking of last night, Matt, when I was kind of going over everyone they've taken, and I said, they went and took a long snapper when they already have a starting long snapper. They went and took a punter when they've got a punter on roster right now. It would have been foolish for me to think that they weren't going to kick the tires with the most important position on the field being quarterback. And if you can go out there and get a guy who's started, 29 games, I think it is, so almost 30 starts under his belt, and certainly brings the dynamic running the football, which he did in high school and again in college, and designed to run the football that's different than what LSU's got. So whether you want more competition or you just want someone who's a little bit different or it gives you more depth, whatever it might be, I don't see how you can sit here as an LSU fan and say, throw your hands up and say, I don't get it, I'm done. Why would they do this? This is unfair to X, Y, and Z. And I think just in the modern era of the portal and certainly being hired as a completely new staff and being expected to turn a program around, you're going to reach out and get as much help as you can get.
So, Shea, obviously the 2022 class, a giant portion of that has been transfers. If my math is right, Daniels becomes number 16 in the transfer market. 2023 and beyond has got to come back to the norm where they're leaning more heavily on the high school crop. Junior Day was this weekend out at LSU. Let's dig deep into kind of who was there and the significance of this weekend. How big, first of all, how significant was this weekend for this staff and for the future of the program?
I think it was significant in the sense of this was their first chance to really lay a foundation down with the recruiting class, right? I mean, we heard the coaches now that we've been able to talk to the whole staff after both signing days. It was a bit of a scramble mode, right? Like everyone was getting hired and you needed to just hold on to that core group you had in December. And then it was about trying to close on some guys. They had some in-state misses and they go out of state and get a guy like Harold Perkins. And you kind of understood that there was going to be a bit of scrambling and that, the dominoes could fall either way with LSU coming off back-to-back 500 seasons. I think this weekend was sort of pressing the reset button in the sense of the guys we're recruiting now, this is the first time they've met us. They weren't, a lot of these guys obviously are junior day. A lot of them are juniors in high school, but some are younger that come up there and they haven't maybe had a ton of exposure to LSU beforehand. So seeing it now with Brian Kelly and the new staff would be their first impressions. And I think that's what they were going for is let's go ahead and put together a junior day weekend where we meet with these families, parents and aunts and uncles and coaches or whomever it might be that comes in with the kids and lay out this. And we've heard Brian Kelly talk about it, this plan of graduating champions, as he says, which is a heavy focus on academics, a heavy focus on accountability and buying in. And if you do all these things, then, you'll have playing time and you'll be competing, in the SEC West and trying to build LSU back up into a national championship caliber program. And a number of the kids I talked to this weekend when I asked them, look, what did Brian Kelly tell y'all when he met with everybody? What did he talk about when he sat around in one-on-one, situations, eating crawfish or in his office? And most of them kind of repeated a lot of the same stuff. It was about, hey, look, we're turning the page now. It's going to be a new chapter in LSU football. Here's the groundwork, kind of the blueprint of what we want to do. And if you want to buy into that and fall in line with everything we're playing in here, then we see as a fit. And if not, that's okay. But we're going to move on and find that guy that fits this program and the mold of the guys they're looking for. And I think a lot of kids were just excited to say, hey, look, it was fun being up around LSU. I don't think it matters maybe who the coach is you're, 16 years old and you're getting to go to LSU Junior Day for the first time. But from talking to a number of the parents, including a couple that had been around a lot before, they said that it was very by the book. Everything was checked off on the itinerary. You were everywhere at the right time, and you could just kind of tell. And Kelly's talked about that being a CEO type approach to a program, that it bleeds over into things like recruiting and certainly a big event like a junior day.
Yeah, Shea, I was looking at your Twitter feed all weekend, and so many of the guys who were on campus, tweeting pictures of Brian Kelly or complimentary things. To be clear, I mean, you and I have talked about this enough over the years. Like, I don't know that any prospect has ever had like a bad visit. I mean, you're on campus, you're getting crawfish, and you're at the staff, and I mean, it's a great time for young guys. Specifically, though, if you start looking at positions or areas of focus for 2023, what are those, and did they make progress with any of those guys this weekend?
I think O-line seems to be, like, if I'm counting offers that have gone out at each position, O-line and D-line have gotten a lot of them. Now, naturally, there's a bunch of guys at each of those positions, but they did probably have the most amount of guys, let's look at the O-line. I mean, Garrett Dellinger's younger brother, obviously Garrett was a guy who started a handful of games this year as a true freshman. This past year, his younger brother Cole is the top 5 player now coming out of Michigan as an O-lineman. And he said that Brad Davis brought him in and was very specific of, look, we want you here. We want you to be able to play with your brother. We want you as a center. And right now he's kind of just an interior O-line prospect for most college teams, plays some offensive tackle in high school, but said it was kind of very pointed now of no longer are we just talking on the phone and we're recruiting you, but hey, now we're really trying to push for you. And I talked to a number of O-linemen who said, look, they're trying to stack up on getting guys committed early. And I think corner would be another, that they have a lot of corners in. I think Robert Steeples knows that he's got to be able to build that room back beyond just taking transfers, which speaks to your point a minute ago. I mean, they were basically like about to take, I think they're at 29 commits, but it's like a 50-50 split on high school and transfer. You don't want that to be the case every year. So I think they're going to want to stack up on corners this year, and they had a number of big guys in. So those are 2 positions that probably jump out. But again, it was just one visit weekend, and they've got a lot of guys coming almost every weekend, whether it's just a handful here or a few more there. And that will stretch kind of all the way through spring ball. So I think over the next 2 months, we'll get a feel for really which positions they kind of want to maybe make preference over others. But naturally, you're going to get a quarterback, you're going to get a running back, and kind of just fill out a board almost like they did this year of hitting a little bit of every position.
You got any quarterback update for 2023?
Oh, there was a big one. I mean, it's not an Arch Manning update, but look, Arch Manning is the number 1 quarterback in the country. He said that at some point he's going to visit this spring. But the number, 4 quarterback in the country, number 3 quarterback in the country it is, but number 6 overall prospect. So not far behind Manning is a kid out of Michigan, Detroit, named Dante Moore. And the dead period, Matt, ended Monday, and Dante Moore this weekend was at LSU and had made his way all the way down from Michigan and is looking at LSU pretty seriously. And he's got Michigan, Michigan State, Notre Dame is kind of considered maybe to be one of the biggest teams they're competing with. And he had been recruited to Notre Dame, obviously, while Brian Kelly was there. So they had that relationship, and he was able to meet the rest of the staff and get to see a lot of what LSU's got to offer. And now they'll look to get him back on an official visit. So, yes, if you're trying to find guys like beyond the Arch Manning, if you're like, take me past that discussion, you don't have to go far. They're after another 5-star in Dante Moore, who is at least giving them a pretty serious look right out of the gates. And a lot of people feel like, hey, if he does leave Michigan or the Northeast, that the one place in the South that he's really high on is LSU.
It's a good write-up there at Go247 that Shea has about Dante. So if you want to read it, you can go to Go247 and check it out there. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. He's at Shea Dixon. Shea, we always appreciate a couple of minutes, man. Thanks for jumping aboard.
Yeah, we'll talk again soon.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.